look at the lens right there. See? Right there.
I like to walk him all to Beach Banners headquarters here in Jacksonville, Florida. The mighty 414 behind us, and my co-pilot, Bob.
I'm sitting right seat, typical.
You know, we've got to switch it up every now and then.
I know, that's all good.
So, our last experience was, it was a long day.
Yep.
Started out here at Craig, and we went to Key West. And what was the reason where you had to go on this flight with me?
Let me tell you something. When you fly with Joel, it's never. Can I talk about personality flaws for the moment?
Oh, please.
You're very impatient. Very impatient. So he says, we are leaving at noon. And I said, I'm going to be a few minutes late. And you were very patient, which I said to my wife, I thought that was very unusual that you were very patient. So we get there and I go, so we get in there and he goes, hey, you're flying because the autopilot is gone. Ooh, hand flying. Something like this, the twin, hand flying all the way to Key West, 2 hours, right?
2 hours and 10 minutes.
2 hours and 10 minutes, and
I just finished the trip coming back from Key West that morning and coming out of IFR, turned the autopilot on, and I got a loud buzz and a little jerk to the left. And
that's right.
It was over for the autopilot.
So when you talk about pre-briefing your flights or thinking about your flights, make sure you're looking at everything, which I do because that's what you taught me to do, but I wasn't necessarily prepared to hand fly a twin all the way when you have an autopilot. So all my instrument training was done hand flying, which was great, but I was not ready for that. So
what's the differences when you get up to high altitude hand flying it when you get up in the flight levels?
Light touch.
Very light touch.
Super light touch, because I was looking at the step ladder on the attitude indicator, and you just a little bit here, a little bit there, but you constantly got to pay attention to it. So it's just, you're doing 200 knots and you just kind of really, really light touch.
Light touch.
Very super light touch, which really helped because when your instrument fly, it's all light touch. So when you're learning your private pilot stuff, light touch also, just because the less gorilla grip you have. Right, easy, right.
All right.
Gentle.
Remember your instrument training and you had the death grip on the yoke for your last approach? We put some.
He took many pictures of me with any blood in my
you
fingers.
You had the death grip.
But it was
going
interesting also, another thing that we went IMC the minute we broke ground for the most part. I think got a 400 feet. So IMC the whole time. And one of the tricks you do, and most Skyhawks don't have two pitot systems, right? So when you're flying by yourself. But it was the first time I'd ever got pitot icing.
All right, so we take off from Craig, we go down to Key West, pick up a load of passengers, and there we have to go from Key West to Hilton Head Island. And I filed for 21,000 feet. Well, there's a little bit of weather, a little frontal system over North Florida. And we went into GOO somewhere around Bartow at 21,000 feet.
Middle of the state, right.
And the trick that I use, it's got two pitot tubes and two airspeed indicators, is I leave the right airspeed indicator, pitot tube, turned off. So when you start getting icing, it's going to happen in the pitot tube first. Your airspeed indicator goes to zero. So he's over there hand flying from the right seat. And his airspeed goes to zero, and he says, "Oh!"
It felt like, and I told a buddy of mine, I said, it felt like I was in the movie Airplane, and you sit there and in the movie, you see the altimeter, 21,000, 19,000. Oh my God, the autopilot's deflating. Well, I saw my airspeed just go, boom,
and it dropped off to zero,
dropped like almost to zero, and I had that moment. I kind of
so you went from the co-pilot instruments to the pilot side instruments.
Oh yeah.
And I switched over and turned on the pitot heat, the static heat. The ice.
That's right.
And then I looked out your window.
Yeah, and then you look out, and then because I'm sitting there, when you're hand flying, you kind of try to be as relaxed as you can, especially at altitude. And while you're light touch, you kind of want to take a peek out the window every once in a while, just because while we were IMC, all of a sudden whoosh, there was snow cones on the leading edge.
About 3/4 inch of ice in a matter of seconds.
It was crazy too, because I went, icing! And he went, oh my
So
God!
I reached over,
turn on,
flip the boots on, and blow them up, pop off.
Mm-hmm. But it was interesting also that for what I did was, because I'd been on the other end of an icing call, so if a pilot would say icing and that kind of stuff, I immediately went, I got icing and I'd like lower. Now, interestingly enough, Jason had mentioned in one of his on videos that when you get icing, what you do is change altitude. So not necessarily down is always the way to go. It's on altitude.
Well, we were 21 and service ceiling on that airplane is 23.
Well,
so
we're not going up.
Yeah, we can't go up anymore.
But it's still, I mean, in a small plane, if you get some icing, Where do you do? Do you instantly go down, or do you instantly go up? You know,
Right.
what is your? Sometimes you're so heavy you can't really climb,
Right.
so you're kind of you got options are limited. But it was really kind of a crazy thing to actually see icing for the first time, and immediately got on the radio and said we were picking up icing, and of course picked up light rime.
Light
ice.
rime. So we come
Right.
out of 21,000 and went to 15, I believe is what they gave
Right.
us.
So when you give a pyre up, just to let you know on the icing part, they'll immediately pull out a piece of paper. Sometimes there's a form that they already have set up for pyre reps that they just fill out the stuff real quick and rip it off and then hand it off to somebody who will put it in the computer. Sometimes they'll just write a piece of paper, but that will instantly, anytime you get an icing call, will immediately go pyre repped up, and that'll get put in the system almost real time.
Right.
So it's kind of interesting. But that was a first. You did another first for me. You know.
Yeah, every now and then we have a first.
You're a firster for me. Don't judge. I'm just
Hey, it's
saying,
all
you know,
it's all
right.
good. So go down to 15. We're still picking up ice. It was
Little bit.
-6 at 21.
That's right.
It was right at freezing at 15, and we ended up finishing the job at
Right.
13,000.
So how do you? I mean, did you know the outside air temp before we got there, or is it kind of one of those things you're just feeling your way along?
Well, it's if you were paying attention, you know, if you'd read your instruments. On the Avidyne, the
Yeah.
top center is
Okay.
the outside air temperature in
So
Celsius.
you're saying I should have looked at the outside air
Well,
temperature
you
as
just-
part of my scan?
When you're high altitude, you need to add the scan, and
Yeah. Too many things to think
I had
about.
the left pitot tube
Right.
system on, and you weren't aware of that.
No, we talked about that before, but I wasn't necessarily.
Right.
You know, I was kind of just.
And I've had that airplane, the static system. When you get into some serious ice, the static system, the autopilot starts to give you a little jolt, and that tells you it's starting to.
Well, you didn't have an autopilot. You had an auto bob.
Yeah, we had an auto bob that
Right.
day.
Yeah. So that was kind of. It was good.
It was a little jerky then.
I will tell you, I was really tired at the end of that day. I
Yeah.
think we
You did about 5.5 hours
Yeah.
of hand flying that
and
day.
it was about at least almost.
And
an hour
that
actual,
evening, we came
yeah.
back into Craig.
Oh my
And it
gosh,
was
yeah.
900
Yeah.
overcast, about 3-mile visibility, and we're doing a circling approach at 5 minutes to dark.
5 minutes to dark. So,
So-
here at the airport, the some of the approaches we can't do at night. Just in some approaches,
Right.
you'll see that you'll look on your notes for your instrument approach. They can't shoot this approach at night,
Right.
not authorized, and that kind of
Circling is
stuff.
not authorized at night.
Circling is not authorized for whatever reason. In this particular case, we knew when sunset was
We
official.
already set that
Although,
up and-
you know, with clouds and all that stuff coming in, it was pretty darn dark. But we were legal to shoot the approach. And this is another thing that's really fascinating as well, from a pirate perspective, is they were showing 1,300 over,
Right.
right? And no
We didn't come
preset.
out of the clouds till 900, and
900
it was
feet.
raining sideways.
And it was coming sideways. So something had rolled into the airport before the official observation
changed,
came
yeah.
out, right? And I remember ticking off the altitude, and here we are. We should be breaking out, nothing, and I'm looking out, and it was really kind of fascinating. And then as soon as we broke out, we started banking out,
Yeah,
and it
turn it
reminded
for the
me,
downwind.
right? So what are most circling minimums altitudes typically for approaches?
500 foot.
500 foot, right?
Yeah.
At 500 feet, we were at 900 feet.
We were at 900
and
feet.
You were making a comment that we would never do this if we weren't familiar
With the airport. I knew where the highway
Right.
was and where the intersection was
That's
to
right.
turn for the runway.
Yeah.
And then we had to ask the tower to turn the runway lights up
That's
higher
another one,
because you
That's
don't
right.
you don't want to miss the road versus the runway lights. And in a lot of cities, especially going into anybody's going to Orlando and line up on the Beeline Expressway instead of runway 7.
That happens?
That happens.
Wow.
More than
Really?
once.
Well, I will tell you one of the things that you as a pilot have the ability to do is ask for runway light intensities as you see fit. So the controllers have a look and say, we're going to, at this particular visibility, we'll set it at this particular setting. And most runways have 5 settings. And it just depends on how you want to do it. Sometimes the LEDs are really bright and setting 2 is about the most you want. But when weather is really, really lousy, then you'll run settings up to step 5
Right.
and light the whole world up. But you as a pilot, whether you're coming in when you're doing night flying, whether it's VFR or IFR, and you don't like the settings, don't be afraid to jump in there and say, can you turn the lights up or turn the lights down? That's part of
Right.
what we do. So we had to do
Communication.
that.
Communication is key. If you have a problem in the cockpit,
That's
let them know.
But we had to do it. It's like, hey, can you bump the lights up?
Right.
Because he had them so dim, it was really.
You had them on step 1, and we were coming around, and they
Right.
weren't bright enough
As
for
soon
our
as you
conditions.
put them on step 4, you just kind of breathe this big sigh of relief,
You're like,
and then you banged it about 6 times.
It was a
and-
bounce. It's
Yeah,
a long day.
Yeah, it was a long day. So that was kind of our gig there. That was interesting. So I learned a ton about icing. We learned a lot about hand flying and altitude
Autopilot
and having touch.
We did some deviations for
Deviations for weather.
weather, and
which is-
also military areas were
Yep.
military were
We
hot.
got bumped around military airspace, so that, I mean, crazy flight, but a lot of stuff I learned as far as that's concerned. That was really neat. And hopefully I can just take that, you know, 'cause
Yeah.
you really can't learn anything anymore. You know
Well, with
everything.
your instrument ticket, the
Yeah.
ink's still drying on
An
it.
instrument to be dangerous, is that what you're saying?
And you probably
Yeah.
don't even have your plastic card yet, do you?
I do have my plastic
Oh,
card,
you-
right?
yeah,
I do.
you-
I got
you're
it in the
certified
mail.
now.
I do. I could show you, but I think I'd have to kill you, so that's not going to happen. So, anyway, that's.
Well,
I hope you guys found
another
that.
crazy story from
Yeah.
Aloha Bob and the Flying
That's
Wiener.
right.
Until
Yeah.
next time.
Oh, hey everybody! A good pilot
As
is
always,
learn,
learning.
and see you guys.